Good afternoon and welcome to The Rundown. I am your host, Captivating Christian, and here are some of your top stories for today, the 26th of August. Day 2 of the GOP convention, a First Lady, a pardon, and Pompeo. And Tennessee adopts a new law that could strip some protesters from their voting rights. Tennessee protesters could now lose their right to vote under a new law by Governor Bill Lee. Hospitals still suing patients in the coronavirus hotspots. Jacob Blake, who was paralyzed after being shot by Wisconsin police. Salmonella outbreak linked to peaches across 9 states, including Maryland and Virginia. Kanye West sued. Company claims it got played. You stole our tech for Sunday service. Let's get to the news. First Lady Melania Trump cast her husband as the best hope for America and Americans in the Rose Garden address Tuesday night as President Donald Trump turned to his family, farmers, and the trappings of the presidency to boost his re-election chances for the second night of a scaled-down Republican convention. President Donald Trump pardoned a former felon and used the White House grounds to elevate his wife's keynote address and oversaw the naturalization ceremony for several immigrants in midst of the primetime program. The welcoming tone was at odds with some of his own policies, which were aimed at reducing both legal and illegal immigration. Mrs. Trump and 2 of his 5 children led a diverse collection of support, including a convicted bank robber, calling for Trump's re-election on the night that featured a distinctly more positive tone than the night before. The first-term president is laboring to improve his standings in a 2020 presidential race. He is currently losing under the weight of the coronavirus and its related economic devastation. Most polls report that Democratic rival Joe Biden has a significant advantage in terms of raw support. The former vice president also leads on character issues such as trustworthiness and likability. COVID-19 death toll surged past 178,000 on Tuesday, by far the highest in the world. There is no sign of slowing down. The nation's unemployment rate still exceeded 10%, which is higher than it ever was during the Great Recession. And more than 100,000 businesses are in fear of closing forever. At the same time, the White House seems to have had an abandoned effort to negotiate another federal rescue package with Congress. Convention organizers had promised an uplifted and spirited message the night before as the convention began, but that was undermined by dark and ominous warnings from the president and his allies about the country's future if he was to lose in November. Tuesday night, there was a series of attacks on Joe Biden throughout, although the lineup generally maintained a more positive tone, in part due to some last-minute changes. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was addressing the convention and the nation during an official overseas trip in Israel. Pompeo taped appearance breaks while decades of tradition of secretaries of state avoiding the appearance of involving themselves in domestic politics. That his video was filmed in Jerusalem, he was on an official foreign trip, raised additional questions of out of public view for most of the year. Mrs. Trump was stepping into the spotlight to argue for a second term for her husband, while trying to avoid the misstep that married her introduction into the nation 4 years ago. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, I am Captivating Christian, and this is the part of the stories in which I give my personal commentary. So first, let's welcome anybody new to the chat. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope you like, share, and subscribe. So you always, and hit that bell so you can always get the update on what's going on with my channel. And let's get right into it. So, today was day 2 of the RNC's convention, or otherwise known as Trump, because that's all they ever talk about. This one was particularly not as cutthroat as day 1 or as openly racist as day 1, but it was still some racist tones in there, thanks to Eric Trump and others, but it was definitely full of heavy saltines and a lot of Lowry seasoning, I guess, to prove that they have flavor. But a lot of course, fabricated stories and lies as far as Donald Trump making this economy great. He inherited a pretty good economy coming back from the brink of a recession in 2008 when he took office. But of course, nobody wants to mention that. They just talk like Donald Trump walked, like he created this booming thing, which he did not. They did not talk much about the pandemic and about almost 200,000 people dying, or about the fact that he knew about the pandemic way in November of last year and did nothing about it up until March of 2020. So yeah, that's a bit of a misstep, which has caused vast unemployment. Don't forget his tariffs that he went back and forth with China on, which caused a lot of soybean farmers to actually go belly up or need assistance. And he was only giving assistance to the farmers in states that voted for him. Other than that, it was okay. I mean, Melania Trump talked about her Be Best program, which was a program originally about cyberbullying and to try to combat that. However, she got so much heat from people talking about how could you have a program against cyberbullying and your husband does the most cyberbullying on Twitter. So she wound up changing her platform for Be Best to now talk about drug, opiates, and homelessness and foster children and a whole array of stuff under Be Best. But more power to you, woman. Other than that, that was about it. Mike Pompeo, which secretaries of state really don't get involved in domestic politics because they are representative of the United States and not necessarily the president. So they try not to get involved into politics. However, Mike Pompeo had a message over in Tel Aviv where he is currently in Israel on his, international duties. However, whoop-de-doo. But basically, some of the same. It was a little more undertone racism than it was blatantly to your face as it was day 1. But day 2 was still some of the same. Oh, if you elect Biden, Biden will do this to the nation. Biden will do that. But my whole thing is, you've already had 4 years to make America great. And if in 4 years you had not made America great, why would you need 4 more to make America great? You were supposed to make it great within 4 years. So then people would vote for you for the next 4 to say, oh yeah, you did make America great. Let's continue on that. But being that we are sitting here in a pandemic, people who have lost their jobs due to the pandemic may not be able to regain their jobs. You have homelessness with people getting evicted. You also have civil unrest with the police still shooting unarmed black people. So where is the greatness? Yeah, I think it is time for a change. That's just me. Moving right along. Protesters who camp outside of state property, such as activists who have demonstrated for months outside of the state capitol against racial injustice, could now face felony charges punishable by up to 6 years in prison. Convicted felons are automatically stripped of their voting rights in Tennessee. A new law, which went into effect immediately, outraged civil rights groups who have said the move is Tennessee's latest attempt to suppress voting ahead of November's election. The racially motivated underlining in the law is undeniable. Tennessee is among the states not allowing voters to use the fear of the coronavirus as a reason to vote by mail. In the state, it is a crime to distribute mail-in ballot applications. Last year, a federal judge blocked a new Tennessee law that sought to restrict voter registration drives. The new law also imposed a mandatory minimum jail sentence for assaulting a first responder or participating in a riot. It also enhanced penalties of vandalism of government property. The American Civil Liberties Union of Tennessee sent a letter to Lee on August 14th, imploring him to not sign the legislation written that it attacks our freedom of speech rights, intentionally chilling the act of protesting by threatening those individuals with overly harsh criminal penalties. All right, here is voter suppression at its finest. So Tennessee has basically immediately put out a law that condemns people for protesting. So anybody protesting, they find being defacing government property, or people do sit-ins in the Capitol, on the Capitol grounds, could be arrested to 6 years in prison. However, when in Tennessee, once you're in prison, you lose all your voting rights. So now they're going further and saying that protesters who defame government property or sit-ins, like I said, basically to go after the protesters. And knowing that there's a lot of protests going on for the racial injustices going on around this country, it's another way to kind of fight back the vote. And Tennessee is waging war on people of color, because of course we are the ones going out in the front lines and fighting and speaking our minds against all of this police brutality. Wow. And it's so funny. You sit there and say, oh, this is I've listened to 2 days of the RNC thus far, and we talk about how so inclusive this America is, and this America is great. You can do all things in this America, where you have the most freedom, and if you vote for Joe Biden, you won't have freedom. But what freedom is that? Clearly, when you're saying that if I protest, you will take away my right to vote by throwing me in jail, even if it's for a month or whatever. Once you put me in jail and charge me with whatever felony you charge me with, you taking away my right to vote. So you plan to take away a lot of people's rights to vote, so they don't vote and vote against or vote for your opposition. Yeah, but we're so free, right? Yeah, so it's a free America. I think it's complete BS, and we know that under this Trump administration, we are not free. Not saying that you'd be totally free under a Biden administration, to be clear, but if we press him because he wants to vote and he wants to make sure he keeps our vote, that way at least we have some footing in this war for equality. But this president has no intentions on giving anyone any kind of equality unless it comes with a price tag, one that he can or one that he chooses to. He's not gonna pay for it, but one he's choosing to get paid from. So No, I think this is total BS and some more voter suppression garbage. Anything to get you to stop protesting and to fear you into ever protesting again. But um, I don't know. I really don't know how this one's going to go down. A lot of civil rights groups have fought against this law, but this law went into effect immediately. So, like day one, um, people can lose their voting rights act for protesting. Interesting. This is crazy. It's only going to get crazier in this free America under Donald Trump, right? Yeah. Hey, this is Captivating Christian here to remind you to tune in to Politics and Wellness every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Politics and Wellness every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. You never know what you might get. As many of Americans lost their jobs and fell sick with coronavirus this summer, hospitals in some of the hardest hit states were getting back to the business of suing their patients. The Americans least likely to be able to pay their medical bills are some of the same people who are the most vulnerable to the virus and its economic fallout. Among all of the roughly 24 of the community health system hospitals in Florida, Texas, and Arizona have sued patients since the pandemic began. Many paused or slowed down in the spring, but then resumed business as usual over the summer. These hospitals have filed dozens, sometimes hundreds, of these cases per county between January 1st and August 14th of this year, according to Axios. The review of the court records in the counties that make them available online. A random sampling of these lawsuits show that the hospitals sued to collect medical bills ranging from the least of them being $1,000 to, in one case, being $127,999.53. Individuals who are currently a defendant in a collection suit and who have had a change in their financial status due to the COVID-19 are urged to call 866-450-0044. Again, that is 866-450-0044. All right, and here we have the next story. Corporate greed at its best. So the hospitals are still suing people, basically charging them for their treatment, even though we are still in the midst of a pandemic. Anywhere from $1,000, ranging from hundreds of thousands of dollars. Okay, and you mean to tell me that the government is not giving handouts to these hospitals to help them cover the cost for this pandemic, because it was no fault of their own that they had contracted the coronavirus. It was the mishap of the United States government at the head of Donald Trump, of course. But I guess we don't want to talk about that, so we just try to go around and sue the people who are sick and recovering from coronavirus to make them pay for it, right? Yeah, this makes perfect sense. But again, this is the America that you voted for. So, yeah. And then you're going after the states that are the most infected and the people most vulnerable who won't be able to repay these medical bills. Again, of no fault of their own, but due to the lack of attack from this particular administration. So then how do you expect the people to pay? So what I think should happen, I think the government should be paying these people's medical bills for this coronavirus and move forward instead of trying to always make a quick buck or some extra tax cuts for the people who don't need them anyway, how about you start paying some of these people who work hard for you and do your bidding? How about you start paying their medical bills? You might want to try that if you're looking for a vote. Just my thoughts. Next story. And be sure to join Jay Wilson, Rebel Son, The Official King Payne, Conscious TV, and Captivating Christian this and every Thursday at 6:45 Central Standard Time, 7:45 Eastern Standard Time for the Gentleman's Panel, where we are not afraid to go there and discuss an array of topics. See you there. Jacob Blake, the 29-year-old black man who was shot several times by Wisconsin police, is now paralyzed. Family attorney Benjamin Crump said Tuesday. Blake is currently undergoing surgery and is struggling to sustain his life. The medical diagnosis right now is that he is paralyzed, and because of those bullets, severed his spinal cord and shattered some of his vertebrae. It is going to take a miracle for Jacob Blake Jr. to ever walk again. The shooting, which is under investigation by Wisconsin Department of Justice, occurred around 5 p.m. on Sunday when officers responded to calls of a domestic incident. Video of the encounter shows Blake walking away from police, prompting one officer to grab his shirt as he attempted to open the car door side of the parked SUV. The officer then shot Blake multiple times in the back. The video, of course, quickly went viral across social media, sparking 2 nights of unrest in the city. 2 officers involved in the arrest have been placed on administrative leave. The FBI is assisting the Wisconsin Department of Justice with the investigation. Alright, so here we have the story of Jacob Blake. That is the young man, the 29-year-old young man, the 29-year-old black man who was shot several times by police. I believe it was 7 times as he was making his way back into his vehicle as the police officer was pulling his shirt and then began to fire his firearm at Mr. Blake. So, of course, as always, these police officers are not fired or reprimanded. They are placed on administrative leave until the investigation is over. Funny how usually, again, this is the reason why there's always a thing of Black Lives Mattering. Apparently he had broken up a fight and began to get back in his car where his children were to, I guess, tend to them and ignored the police. Now, some people say, well, why didn't he just comply? Why didn't he just comply? Why didn't he just comply? And that always seems to be the story, the kind of the reason why. Let's be very clear. Complying and answering a question is one thing, but a lot of times what these officers want is this whole you're face down, hands behind your back. You know, they go through all this rigmarole then to ask questions, and then you have to sit there and they have to, I don't believe you, taking you to the precinct to do all that, then to just verify that, oh, you weren't involved in the first place. Okay, so sometimes it gets a bit much, and it kind of veers left from just asking a question to really them feeling disrespected as law enforcement and then wanting to assert their power and authority. And that's where the problem lies. It's not a thing about complying, it's a whole thing about attitude. Again, how you view me should be how you view yourself. When you don't view me the same as you view yourself, no matter what kind of compliance I give you, if you don't feel it validates you and you feel respected in my compliance, then you feel what? Disrespected. And then you take the law in your own hands and you want to prove a point or make an example out of me. And that's the problem we're having. It's not about compliance, it's all about the viewership. So when you view me a certain way, you treat me a certain way. And that's just evident. And that seems to be the problem. So now this young man, if he does live through this, God willing, he will be paralyzed for the rest of his life. Now, no amount of money can change that. And I think that's the problem that a lot of people are not seeing. Again, when these things don't happen to you and they're not an everyday occurrence to you, it is easy for one to say, oh, just comply, just comply, just comply and be complicit. However, when this is an everyday occurrence in your neighborhood all the time, no matter if you comply or not, we can look at the Castile moment where in which he complied with the officer and even told the officer that he had a licensed weapon and he was licensed to carry, and still he lost his life in front of his child and his girlfriend. So therefore, there is record of there being a lack of regard for person when dealing with a black person or a person of color. So there's no more evidence. We don't need to go back and forth with, oh, why didn't you just comply? There is evidence that even complying with officers does not work, because they seem to not, they don't like your attitude. Then it escalates to something unnecessary. And because he was ignored by the officer, because he was ignored by the officer, he felt disrespected. And I guess he wanted to show his disrespect to that young man in a way of using his weapon. I don't like that. A salmonella outbreak linked to peaches has been reported across 9 states and 2 provinces in Canada. The U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention, otherwise known as the CDC, has issued a food safety alert over the recall of peaches supplied from Prima Wawuna or Wawuna Packaging Company, according to Fox Business News. As of August 19th, a total of 68 infections and 14 hospitalizations have been reported in the U.S. People in Minnesota, Michigan have reported the most illnesses, followed by Iowa, New York, and Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Virginia. No deaths have been reported. Officials in Canada also issued a warning saying that the ongoing outbreak resulted in 33 illnesses in Ontario and Quebec. 3 people were hospitalized and no deaths were reported. The Canadian Food Inspection Agency told consumers not to eat, use, sell, or serve any peaches recalled from Prima Wawuna from the U.S. or any products made with the peaches. The retail sold their peaches in places like Aldi's, Kroger's, Target, Walmart, and Wegmans, and other retails may have sold these peaches as well. The CDC has said that the peaches were sold in grocery stores through August 3rd. Salmonella infection usually results in stomach cramps, fevers, and diarrhea for up to 6 days after exposure. While most recover without treatment, sometimes severe illness requires hospitalization because the infection can be spread from the intestines to the bloodstream and elsewhere in the body. Alright, so this next story is about these peaches with salmonella. Now, let's get with it. So, these peaches by this company, Prima Wawuna, I know I'm butchering it, but it's a product, a peach Peaches product that are sold in Aldi's, Kroger's, Target, Walmart, and Wegmans. They've been tested to have salmonella. Salmonella is an infection that attacks the intestines. It leaves you with stomach cramps, fever, and diarrhea for up to 6 days. They're asking anyone that if you have purchased these peaches anywhere from August 3rd till now to remove them, wipe down the areas in which you've stored them. If they've been in a refrigerator drawer, to take them out of the refrigerator drawer, throw them away, and also wipe down the refrigerator, cabinet, countertop, wherever you keep them. So this is a bit, again, frightening with all the things that we have to do now because of COVID-19, as far as washing the products when you bring them into your home and wiping them down before you place them into your storage areas, be it refrigerator, cabinet, whatever. Now we have salmonella in peaches. If it is not one thing, it's another. So just be mindful, be careful. If you do have them, please discard them. Me being here in Maryland, it brought attention to me. So those of us in the DMV area, Maryland and Virginia, has been issued in this recall for these peaches that have salmonella. If you happen to shop in Wegman grocery stores in Maryland and Virginia, this includes you. It also includes a recall of lemons and oranges for Wegmans grocery store. So if you're in Maryland and Virginia area and you shop at Wegmans, their lemons and oranges are also being recalled. And again, their peaches are being recalled from Aldi's, Kroger's, Target, Walmart, and Wegmans. TMZ is reporting that Kanye West took advantage of a tech company to advance his Yeezy brand and launch his popular Sunday service, then left them high and dry, according to a new suit. The My Channel Inc. says that its black-owned business specialized in video and e-commerce technology. The company claims it linked up with Kanye in the spring of 2018 to help maximize Yeezy's revenue and his Yeezy merchandise. The My Channel Corporation attorneys allege that Kanye got the company to work around the clock for him for 6 months on a series of business promises, which included a future $10 million investment and estimates that it put in 10,000 man hours and invested $7 million of its own into the Yeezy project. According to the suit, the My Channel network even moved its headquarters once to Calabasas and once to Chicago, all to please Kanye and make the partnership work. However, after 6 months, the My Channel network claimed that it became clear that Kanye had no intentions of following through with his promises, and he cut ties, but not before allegedly jacking its technology for his newly launched Sunday service. The company alleges that Kanye promised of a partnership were just an effort to fuel his Yeezy brand and steal confidential tech to make millions on Sunday service. So now we're suing him for it all. We're told that the My Channel Corporation is seeking more than $20 million in damages. The self-proclaimed genius Kanye West is being sued by a black-owned tech company. The black-owned tech company got involved with Kanye around 2018 to help put some technical spins on his Yeezy brand, as well as his Sunday Service album, his gospel rap album, or whatever you want to call it. That particular album, they had been promised $10 million in investment, as well as them working about 10,000 man hours to over a 6 month period to help Kanye West push forth his album as well as products. They had moved offices to better help and support Kanye in his effort from Calabasas and Chicago, simultaneously working from place to place whenever Kanye needed them. Now, this being a black business, they had said that they have already put in $7 million of their own capital to help him. So they were looking for a return on their investment as well as payment, and Kanye has not delivered as of yet. However, he is busy running around the country trying to steal votes from Joe Biden. And that's funny. And here you can't even pay your own bills. Interesting. However, the technical company is suing Kanye West for $20 million in damages. And hopefully they can recoup their money maybe before they actually get to court. That would be best probably for him, because if you're running for office, you don't want to have lawsuits hanging over your head. And then again, you may be taking your cue from old Donald there. Just note that because he's like, in the words of Funky Daniva, because he white like this and not like this, he may be able to get away with it, but I doubt you would. So my best bet to you is you need to scrape up that money and make sure you pay those people for their services. We don't want to we always talk bad about black-owned businesses, but then we always try to skip on out on them instead of paying them, because you would have paid a white company if they would have done the work for you. You definitely would have paid them because you wouldn't want them to talk bad about you. But it's funny how you skip out on your folks. This says a lot about how you really feel. And once again, thank you for watching CCN Midday News. Hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification button so you will never miss another news update. Have a great day. Peace.